So you just got done watching Brandon Cronenberg's new science fiction horror film by the name of Infinity Pool, and you want to talk spoilers. Well, you're in luck because we'll be breaking down the film's main plot, discussing the twists and turns and major reveals, and we're definitely talking about the ending of the film, all in today's spoiler and explained breakdown. But before we get into all those fun topics, let's start the conversation in the comments below. What did you all think about this movie? What worked? What didn't work? What did you think about the twists and turns and reveals? How did you all take in the ending of the film? And of course, what Easter eggs, deeper meanings, or theories did you all have for this film? And if you all enjoyed today's video, make sure you're hitting that thumbs up as well as sharing it. It means a lot to me and I appreciate the support. With all that being said, let's get into the breakdown. Full spoilers ahead. We meet James and his wife Em, who are on vacation because James is seeking inspiration, as we learn that he's a struggling writer who hasn't written in over 6 years, and we also find out that he's living off his wife, who comes from money. Now, after meeting Gabby, who claims to have read the one book that James has written, she convinces him to go on a date with her and her husband Albin. Now, after hitting it off with this new couple, the couples agree to go on a night out outside the resort, which is said to be dangerous. Now, I find the idea of the resort being surrounded in this cage almost as if the tourists are the wild or dangerous ones in the situation versus the actual locals. Now, we see Gabby making her move on James after they're having a couple drinks. They share a very erotic moment together as he's relieving himself by going to the restroom. Now, as time goes by, it's time to head back to the resort, and we see James is having an issue with the car lights and unfortunately hits and kills a local. Pay attention, this is very important. We once again see Gabby take control of the situation and convinces James to not get the police involved and that they should flee the scene, which they ultimately do. Next morning comes, in comes the police, and now the games have begun. Now, this is where we learn about what they called physical doubles, which is a Latoka tradition, as a deal is offered to tourists who commit crimes like this and is given an option to be executed, in this case, the man's family who James hit, or they agree to have themselves cloned, and the clone is the actual one that gets put to death. Now, I found this science fiction concept to be so cool, but I'm not gonna lie. I personally wish the film would have dove more into this cloning process from, number one, who came up with this idea and how long have they been doing this, to how does it only take a few hours to not only clone someone, but also put your memories in that actual clone? I have so many questions about this entire process, but we don't get a lot of those questions answered. Now, were you all like me and wanted to actually get those questions answered, or were you okay taking it off of the face value of the situation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But I do know one thing. Latoka is definitely profiting off this situation and seems to be using this as an opportunity to not only benefit themselves and their government, but also the rich tourists are taking advantage of this as well, because they're breaking laws internationally as almost like a purge situation where they can let their dark and twisted demons out on the locals. Let me know what you all thought about that concept. But we also have to figure that the police not only line their pockets with the money that the tourists are paying them, but it also probably explains how they're able to fund this cloning process. We now transition to the execution taking place as one of the sons of the family who lost their son violently stabs the double to death in the stomach as James watches and begins to smile and is given a souvenir by the police officer. Now, I couldn't have been the only one who immediately thought, we're witnessing James being killed and this is his clone watching this process. Did you all think the same thing at this moment? Let me know in the comments below. I find M's choice of words here to James as they head back to the room to be very interesting, as she is disgusted with her husband and tells James that he just watched the execution like he was a robot, which again led me to believing that this was the double of James and not actually James. But we'll get to that a little bit later. We see Em has seen enough of James and she's ready to leave this whole situation, but fortunately for James, his passport is all of a sudden missing. Remember, he's here for inspiration, and we'll talk about that passport towards the end. But we now see him in this situation where he's found his number one fan. He just killed someone and basically received just basically a slap on the wrist, and he actually got a reward for doing so in the process. I think it's safe to say that James likes it here, and he tells his wife to go home back to her daddy. Now we see Gabby reveals to James that her and her husband were also in this physical double situation after her husband was found guilty after 2 workers were killed while building a pool. Now Gabby invites James to their villa where others are there who share this secret. These rich people refer to themselves as zombies, and all of them have had some pretty interesting, horrific executions. Now, the burning question is brought up in conversation. What if you were killed and they killed the wrong person? How would you know if you're a clone? See the rich people acting like complete degenerates as they want to rob the owner of the resort and take this medal because he's the one who executes them, and because we learn they have money, so why the hell not? We see the plan ultimately go south and they are inevitably arrested, and they have offended and abused this tradition of the physical doubling and have taken it as a joke. But the police are now ready to make a statement out of them, and this time no doubling is offered. This time around, instead, there's an actual execution that's said to be underway. As we see, James is the first one to get his throat slit, but it's revealed it was their doubles who was actually being killed, and this was just all a part of their fun game. To me, this is where I thought it would have been very interesting to have used this moment to maybe allow the locals to participate in this process and get this type of revenge on the rich, but unfortunately, we don't get that. It's not the case. So many different ways I think they could have took this cloning process, and it's definitely something I wish we could have explored a little bit more. But let's get back to the story here. After 10 years of marriage, M has seen enough of James, and we learn that she leaves him, but James doesn't mind. He has embraced this newfound passion to live this life of lust and darkness with Gabby by his side. See her introducing James to this restricted drug in the States, but is used by the locals as an aphrodisiac, and in comes the very weird and provocative and erotic orgy, and James is officially in the crew. So he thinks. Time for James to show his strength, as the next plan is to show Detective Fresh who's really in charge, and they take him as he's getting a surgical procedure done. But after James beats up this detective and even uses the restroom on him, it's revealed that it's another James double. James is distraught by this situation, as it's revealed that the others just paid the detective to make another double of James as a joke. But again, James doesn't find this to be funny at all, as it's revealed that he knew exactly where his passport was this whole time, and he seamlessly just hid it from his wife. James is starting to head home, but is stopped by Gabby and the others as they manage to get the bus to stop after shooting at James. And we get one of my favorite scenes in the movie as we see Gabby yelling to James, "Where do you think you're going, you little baby?" I love this moment, and I thought Mia Goth was actually fantastic in this movie. Definitely going to be a meme. It's already going to probably be a sound on TikTok any day now. But back to it, Gabby mocks him as she makes him walk in front of the car while she's eating chicken and drinking wine, as their game is revealed to James. She never read his book. Remember, she's an actor, as she reads out one of his bad reviews. I'm not sure why they targeted James, but we know that they never really wanted him to be a part of this group. But instead, this is a yearly tradition for them to come down to Latoka and cause all types of mayhem, and James just happened to be caught in the middle of this. We see James manages to briefly escape for a second and is shot in the leg and is found by one of the locals, as we see the others surrounding him just simply laugh at him. It is now time for James to meet the dog, which is no other than James in a leash. They give the dog the drug, as James must complete this transformation through blood to replace his past, and tasked with sacrificing and killing this dog. We see James refuses to do so until the dog attacks him first, leaving James to bashing his own face in, almost essentially kind of metaphorically saying that he's killing his old cowardly James and essentially being reborn. And like a baby being born, he proceeds to breastfeed from Gabby. Let me know what you all thought about that scene there. As James and the others head back home to their normal lives like nothing ever happened on this vacation, as they're on the bus talking about what they're going to do when they get back home, and it's the most common normal stuff you ever heard for people. They're just normal individuals. This scene to me perfectly captures this idea that the rich and privileged who don't take responsibilities of their own actions and seamlessly don't care that they just destroyed these locals' lives or spent all this unnecessary money on just cloning themselves, ultimately to have themselves killed. And knowing this is a yearly trip for them to do this goes back to them being the ones locked behind this cage of the resort because they're the real danger. We see them saying their goodbyes, and we see them saying that they hope to see James next year, as we see James decides to head back to the resort as he sits in the rain for the rest of the season. Now, my question I have for you all in the comments: do we think that we saw James packing to go back home only to send his clone version back home while he stays at the resort, just basically living his best life because he can literally get away with anything? Do you all think that happened? The only thing I see with that theory there as far as a flaw, eventually we know that James would probably run out of money, especially since we know he takes money from his wife, unless he has his clone send him money whenever he's in trouble. Let me know. Did James actually go home, or did James stay behind and he sent his own back to his home with his family? Let's talk about that and speculate about it in the comments below. Before we wrap up, I want to discuss a little bit about the title of the film, which we know is Infinity Pool. And if you actually look up the definition of an infinity pool, it is a pool who is positioned to kind of give you the impression that it merges into the ocean or other surrounding landscapes. If you connect that idea to, let's say, Gabby and others merging into regular society as normal people, and that their clones are essentially infinite as long as they can afford it. What did you all think about the actual title, how it plays into this narrative? What did you all think about this film as a whole and the premise? And make sure to share your theories and deeper meanings in the comments, as well as your thoughts on the ending and if we believe James stayed while sending his clone back home. Let me know your thoughts on that. Also, make sure to check out my full review of this film where I score it, as well as give you all my pros and cons. Also, before we leave today's video, hit the thumbs up button, share this video, and of course hit that notification bell, as well as hit that subscribe button, which is on the screen right now, and or check out the other videos that I have on my channel. You all have been awesome. Hope you're staying safe. We'll catch you all on the next breakdown.